Hey everybody, this is Patrick from Sasquatchandthewild. So this is part 2B, and you just got done watching part 2A. So Riley and I are on the trail, and I'm standing next to a big boulder. Riley is sniffing a bunch of aspens to my left. After a few minutes, I start to get creeped out. There is a sensation going on. Oh, I gotta put my hat on. This is important. So I got my hat on. I'm getting creeped out by something up on the rock. And the first thought was, there's a bear on the rock. And after a few minutes, I ruled it out because A, I would have heard the bear, and B, why would a bear climb a rock? They would just walk around and attack us or maul us to death. So the next thought was it was maybe a mountain lion. And I was really stressing about that because now I got a problem because I have to grab the dog and stuff him into my coat. And I was like, oh my God, a cat. This is going to be terrible. Well, my peripheral vision, I pick up movement. And the movement is something comes in, does this, and I feel a breeze go by. And I'm like, oh crap. And I'm thinking that maybe it took a swipe at me. And I was like, oh, no. A couple seconds goes by, movement, breeze goes by. I'm like, oh crap. So this is going on. This goes on for about 5 minutes, and I'm like, what is this? And so I'm stressing out. I'm trying to figure out how to get Riley into my coat. You know, I'm going to zip him in. But if I bend over, the cat's going to jump on my back, and it's going to be game over because I'm going to die in the process. So I was like, this isn't going to work out. I have to know what's to my right. And I'm stressing about this. I'm really getting bent out of shape. So I decide that I'm going to look. I have to look to my right to see what this is. I have to face whatever this is. I have to face my fear because this is freaking me out. So I decided I'm going to look. I used to be security. I can look at this. There's no problem why I can't. So I was psyching myself up. Okay, I can look. And just when I'm about to do it, okay, let's go. No, I'm not going to do that. I couldn't do it. So I was like, I will just look with my eyes to the right and just see what's happening. So I went, I just waited, and it didn't take very long. So I'm doing this, and we're waiting, and in comes a face, and it goes out. And it was a face. It was a very large face. And I was like, that can't be the gorilla that I just saw back there. There's no way. And so I started ruling out the cat because I started thinking, if this was a cat, why isn't he pawing my hat? Why isn't he making contact with his claws to my face? Why isn't he doing any of this stuff? And why can't I hear him? And he's not making a sound. So I was like, all right. So I waited again, looked to my right, and a face came in, went back out, and I could see details. I could see the eyes, I could see the nose and the mouth. And it was not a cat. It was the gorilla. The gorilla's head was quite large. Larger than I thought it was when I knew it was big, but it was big. So I finally turned, and I said, Riley, you're on your own. And I said, I have to see what this is. And I turned, and I looked up like this. My entire body had turned, and like, now I can't pivot because the ball's behind me. So I turned, like I was looking back, and I looked up. I'm like, holy and the word that it came out echoed off the castle, echoed off of everything. I yelled this, and I was like, holy, I'm looking like this. My head is kicked all the way back, and I'm looking straight up. This guy is looking down at me. And he pulls back, comes back, pulls back, and he's doing this religiously, like bang, 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 bang. He's doing this. He keeps coming in, keeps looking at me, and every time he comes in and looks, he's looking right here. He's not looking at me. He's looking right here because I'm looking up. He's seeing something right here, and I can't figure that out. Now, my hat's squeezing the hell out of my head, but I didn't think that's what this was. And he just kept looking here and here, and he'd pull back in, look here and here, pull back. And it was like a constant state of doing that. So I decided to try to break the tension a little bit, and I said, hey, dude. And whenever I did that at the hospital, I would do this when guys were going stir crazy or they're ramping up for a fight. And I'd say, hey, dude. And people usually go, what? Well, that's what he did. So when I said, hey, dude, and did this. He was like this. And he had this crazy huge smile, almost 2 times larger than mine. And he just, this is the face. This is the same face that I was looking at. And that was it. Mood changed instantly. And I was just like, okay. So again, he was still looking at the spot. And every so often I'd say, what are you looking at? And he would like, he'd pull back. And he would make eye contact. Direct eye contact with me. And I thought, God, this is weird. So I started to think about what Jim Myers back at the Sasquatch Outpost told me as a little story. He said there was 2 fathers that came into this area. And they had 2 sons. And the sons were behind them, and the fathers decided to get ahead of them to play a prank on the kids. They split off and hid in the rocks and the boulders. And I think though the boulder field was more to my right, further up and over. And the kids are coming up, and they're like, Dad, where'd you go? And the other kid said, I think they probably went back to camp. Oh, yeah, probably. So they're kind of on their own a little bit. Well, the one father finds a stick and does a wood knock. Kids are like, oh, wood knock, Dad, Sasquatch and Bigfoot, there's a Bigfoot out here. Picks up a stick. And they're like, oh, this is great. So they're doing that back and forth. The other father gets into it, and he picks up a couple of rocks, does a rock clack. And the kids find a couple of rocks, and they're doing it back. And so they're doing this back and forth. In the meantime, the one father who's doing the wood knocking looks over at his friend, and he catches movement, and he looks up. And he sees up in the boulders a big, hairy, black thing looking down at their kids. And the guy just was like, what the hell? And he drops his stick. The other guy is pounding away on his rocks, right? And he's laughing. He looks over at his buddy, and he sees his buddy dropping the stick. He's looking up, and so he looks up, and he sees the same thing. And he's like, so both guys run from that. Oh, no, they first they yell, hey, bear. And instead of being a bear where it drops down on all fours and kind of pivots its body and either will come down and visit you or walk away, this thing starts to squat down behind the boulders. And they're like, oh, crap. And that's when they ran out. And they said, we saw a bear. And they didn't say Bigfoot. They just said, we saw a bear. Grabbed the kids, ran them back to their campsite, and eventually filed a BFRO report. So here I am. And I'm looking up at this guy. And we've been doing this for quite a while. And I'm looking up. Riley's still to my left or behind me. And I'm just looking at him. And I said, hey, bear. And he did this. He's still smiling, right? And you could see it in his face, like, you think I'm a bear? Let me show you. And this is what it really felt like. And he started to right himself up. And as he did that, I was going, holy crap, are you tall? I mean, I'm looking straight up. Now, there's a way to tell how tall somebody is by looking at them. Because everything's built off of 12 inches, right? So 12 inches... from here 12 inches up technically would be I'm already roughly at 6 foot, so 12 inches from this point is 7, then you go 12 more inches 8, 12 more inches 9, and as you start climbing up, you can take your hand and just kind of follow that up as you're going up. Eventually you're at almost a complete vertical looking up, and that is 12 foot in height or above. This guy was so freaking tall, it was mind-boggling. Well, he decides that he's going to squat down behind that rock that's right in front, or right here, where I'm looking up, and the rock is right here. He's going to squat down behind it. And so as he's lowering down, I'm like, what are you doing? And he's still smiling at me. Mm-hmm. And then I see him start doing this, right? And he's positioning himself as he's going down, because he can't just squat down. He has to position himself here and there, and I'm seeing it kind of bobbing back and forth, so his shoulders are pitching as he goes down behind that rock. Eventually, the head disappears behind the rock. And at that moment, I started to think, was this even real? Did I actually see this? Was I hallucinating the whole thing? Riley gets up and kind of looks at me, and he wants to go down. And I was like, wait, there's something odd here. I said, hold on, Riley. I turned around. I took a half step back to get on the side so I could see behind the side of this rock. When I did that, if you drew a perfect line right here, all the way down the body, that's what I saw. He was literally 3 feet from me, behind the rock, behind this boulder. His knee, when he was sitting his butt down, his knee came up to about almost my chest. I was like, oh my God. And I got to say, I was looking down at his feet. I could see one foot. I could see detail on the foot. I was like, oh my, that's crazy. And then I saw how big his calves were, and I saw how big his knee was, and the thickness of his thigh, and I was like, oh. And I got to see detail all the way down through, and he had his arm there, and he had his hand up against the rock, still kind of adjusting himself, and then he stopped adjusting. And imagine this is the rock, right here. Everything on this side is the rock. Everything on this side is exposed to me, right? So here we go. And he stops right here, right? So he's looking, he's just doing this. And I'm looking at him going, are you playing peekaboo? He goes from this. And that's it. He holds that position. And I sat there going, crap. And I look at Riley, and he's waiting. I'm like, God dang it. If I didn't have Riley, I was going to walk behind that rock. Hands down, I would have walked back there. I would have no issues with walking around that rock. I didn't fear this guy. I had no fear. None. Zero fear. And I looked back at him and I said, dude, I said, I'm camping in a tent. And I pointed to where I was at. I said, I'm over there. I said, I want to see you again. They understand hand gestures. They get it. They totally understand it. Now, how he knows where I'm at is bizarre because there's campers all throughout. And I knew there were campers coming in because you could hear the music in the background. And I was like, I said, I really want to see you. And he was still going. No real noises, no nothing. I can see he's breathing because I can see the flaring of his nostrils going on ever so slightly. And I looked at Riley and I said, but I have to take Riley back. I said, I really hope I see you again. I really want to see you again. But I'm going to go. This was fun. I really enjoyed being around you. And so I ended up saying goodbye. And like once again, I said, I'll see you later. And I said, peace out. And I walked away. Right? So I leave. And we walked down to the end of the trail. And the two trails merge at that point. And we get to the waterfall. And that's when I look at the waterfall. And there's no water in the waterfall. Like, what? How does that work? How does waterfalls turn off? Really? Is there not enough water to run the waterfall? Can't you turn a little knob or turn a boulder or something to get the water to come down? So I come across this father and he's got two kids, a little girl, a little boy, and they asked me, what's down that trail? And I said, well, there's two trails. There's a scenic trail and another trail. Scenic trail kind of takes you up along the mountain there a little bit. And he goes, did you see anything cool? I said, yeah, I saw something interesting. I wasn't going to tell them what I saw because I wanted them to have their own experience. And I didn't want them to think I was a lunatic. But I said, there's another trail that veers off, and it's easier to hike. And he's like, oh, okay. I don't know which one they took. So I said, what's up there? And they said, if you climb this trail here, it takes you up to the castle. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. If you go down this way, it takes you down to the parking lot. I said, there's a parking lot down here? And he goes, yeah. So you just go all the way down, and you'll come out, and there's a Boy Scout camp that's down here. If you look online, you'll see this Boy Scout camp. I was like, well, that's interesting. So I went ahead, and I went down the trail. And they said, whatever you do, don't take your dog up there because it's not really designed for dogs. And I said, okay, no, that's not a problem. I won't do that. So Ryan and we walk all the way around, and we come back to our campsite. We finally get back. So we're walking down the dirt road, or the gravelly road, back to our campsite, and I see Darla and DeAndre, and DeAndre goes, well, there they are. It's about time you get back. And I was like, what are you talking about? Now, I think it's only an hour's passed. 1 hour. This is an hour-long trail. Only 1 hour long. We go walking up, and I said, what are you guys doing? I said, well, we're done eating. I said, okay, well, when's dinner? They said, we just made it. They already ate. They already ate dinner. And I was like, she goes, don't you know how long you were gone? I was like, no, I left my cell phone in the tent. I have no idea. And, you know, I'd made something for me to eat. And they said, what'd you see? And I said, I don't know. This thing looks like a gorilla. But I don't know if it's a gorilla. And she goes, you think you saw a Bigfoot? And I said, I think I did. And I showed her the picture. I showed her the picture that I took, the original photograph. And she was like, I don't see it. She was looking, and, you know, I can't blame her because the back of the camera is all scuffed up. It's got all kinds of gnarly scuffage on it. And it's really kind of dull, so you really can't see detail on it. Because I never put a screensaver or anything on it. So I didn't think about any of that stuff. I was like, well, I could see it. I could turn it and kind of angle it and see the image. And I thought that was cool. I said, there's a trail that goes up the castle. I want to climb that tomorrow. She goes, are you going to take Riley? I went, no, he's going to stay here. And she goes, okay. But, I'll throw my cell phone in my pocket so that way I have a better idea of, what the times are. But, again, I didn't know if my cell phone had any power to it anyway. So we end up calling it a day. Now, I'm going to advance this to a future event that happened with me and a friend of mine. His name is Brian Hammond. We were talking on the phone. And Brian passed away in 2021. And he was a really cool guy. And I'm gonna do a dedicated video to him. Because he and I, we did a lot of camping. We did a lot of camping with Jim, the three of us did. But he called me up and he said, tell me about the day that you were gone. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you were gone for a few hours, right? Oh, I said, at Bailey, yeah, I was gone for quite a while. But I didn't know, what the time was. And I was only gone for an hour. And Darla said, no, you were gone for an hour. And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, no, you were gone for like 6 hours. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, you left at noon, right? And I went, yeah. And she goes, you got back at like 6 o'clock, 6:30, somewhere in there. I was like, are you kidding me? And she goes, no. That put me on the trailhead with a Sasquatch for 5 hours. 5 hours interaction face to face at 2 different spots on the same trail. 5 hours. I don't care what the experts say. A lot of experts, if you listen to them, they've never seen a Sasquatch. They've seen footage, they've seen photographs, they've seen footprints, maybe handprints, maybe they find tree structures or ground art. All that stuff plays a part. But a lot of them have not seen one. The ones that have seen them, they go, yeah, right, okay, like you've seen one. No, I have. I have. Photographs tell a lot of things, and that one told a lot of things. Yeah, 5 hours on a trailhead with a Sasquatch. Kind of shocking, isn't it? I've never written a book. I've not written a book about a Bigfoot at all or Sasquatch. I haven't done any of that. I've thought about it. But these are like my stories put on video. So instead of reading through it, you get to see it firsthand from the guy who lived it. There's a lot of things I'm going to show you with these videos. A lot of things I'm going to talk about. This is just the beginning. On Sunday, I'm going to release another video. And that video will be the next day when I go up to the castle. And there's some things that happen on the castle too, or going up to it. So I'm cutting it now. This was fun. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.